Hi, everyone. Okay, just okay. Every litigator's dream just came true. What's not? Oh, there. Okay. My name is Tali Green. I'm a commercial litigation lawyer and the co-founder and CEO of Goodfact. Litigators spend thousands of tedious, unbillable hours on chronologies. Chronologies are absolutely indispensable because for a case involving many documents, the only way to understand the story of your case is to build a chronology. It takes a lawyer around 35 hours to build a chronology of 500 documents. At a rate of $300 an hour, that's approximately a $10,000 chronology. Our research indicates that about 75% of that time gets written off, doesn't get billed to the client. As a result, at about 10 such large cases per year, that's 250 hours and $75,000 written off per individual lawyer per year. The bulk of the time spent on these chronologies is trying to deal with long and complex email threads. So here on the left, up in the middle, we have two email threads, one in red, one in blue. As you can see, the red email thread has a bunch of emails in it. Let's focus in on the two emails, September 9th and October 1st. There's a gap. There's a 3-week gap in there. A litigator reviewing this gets very nervous about that gap because something else probably happened in those 3 weeks and they have no idea what it is. And they have another 499 email threads to go through to figure out what happened in between the gaps of all these emails. And lo and behold, 5 hours later during their review, they come across these two other emails that were sent in between the two that we looked at before in September. And it just so happens that they're absolutely critical to understanding why on October 1st, this email was sent. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay. This is what a litigator would do in a manual chronology in Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel. They would manually parse out every single one of these emails and every single email thread to get that critical context that they need. That's why it takes hundreds of hours to build these chronologies. And right now, there's no tool on the market that will do it for them except for Goodfact. Like I said, I'm a litigation lawyer. I suffered through this problem. I came up with this idea while I was building a manual chronology in Microsoft Excel for one of my own files. I had to go through 1,500 email threads for a technology dispute, actually. And this was during COVID. My two kids were home, elementary school age, and I was spending hundreds of hours on a chronology where I was essentially doing manual data entry, not practicing law, not spending time with my kids. And in the middle of this process, I realized this cannot be the only way to do it. Started looking out, seeing if there's a solution on the market, and there wasn't one. So fast forward 2 years, I joined forces with a brilliant software engineer named Thomas, who has a very specialized background in email handling, which is a very complex problem because there's like hundreds of different email clients out there, and it's a technology that's decades old. So being able to parse email threads and deal with them is a very unique skill that he happened to have. And that's part of why we're working together. And we built Goodfact, which is an AI-powered instant, accurate, and interactive chronology of documents. It takes email threads, like I showed you what's done manually. It parses them out for you automatically. So work that normally would take hours now takes seconds. And there's no work. It's just clicking a button and you get that chronology. Now, we also integrated other types of documents. So it's not just email threads. Pretty much any document that a litigator would have in their case would get processed and added to the chronology. So email threads parsed, like I showed you the blue and the red email here, they are color coded by thread. So you're able to isolate just the thread or see everything in context. There's room for commenting and tagging. PDF documents, when they're uploaded, they're viewable as images or text, and also you're able to interact with them. This problem, specifically the email parsing, there is no tool on the market right now that does that. There are tools on the market that will put documents in chronological order, e-discovery softwares. There are tools on the market that will allow you to manually build a chronology, so essentially glorified Excel worksheets. That would be LexisNexis's CaseMap, Evercron, Everlaw. So there's a platform in which you can input information, but it's not automated for you. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, over the last year and a half, a large number of AI-powered chronology builders have popped up. Mary Technologies, Thomson Reuters Co-Counsel, Filevine has a feature as well. Filevine is a practice management software for lawyers. The problem with those types of products is they sound great, but the output is terrible. That's the response we're getting from litigators. They dump their documents in, they press a button, and they think it's going to generate a fully automated chronology for them. But the AI-generated summaries miss critical context. They require hours of verification. You have to go back to the original document, make sure everything was captured. It's not a workable solution. Goodfact is in this happy medium. We made a bet on not providing AI-powered summaries. So our summaries are extractive summaries. You see the verbatim text of the document. You can go in and select the sentences that you think are important, but you have full control over what you see in your chronology, unlike the case with the generative AI-powered chronologies. Much more accurate than an AI-powered chronology, but also much less manual than some of the other tools that have already been on the market for a while. Our TAM is potentially very large. We're focusing very specifically for the short term on certain types of firms in English-speaking jurisdictions. So they have to be mid-sized firms of about 10 to 50 lawyers. They have to have an active litigation practice. Ideally litigation-only firms, and there are such firms globally. Those are what we would call our early adopters. As we expand beyond that market and we sort of refine the product, this is a problem that's experienced by a lot of professionals across many industries. Just having to make sense of a large document dump is a major problem. So our bet is that Goodfact can be the story management platform of the world. So insurance professionals, investigators, accountants, and so on and so forth, they all need this product. It doesn't exist right now. Our pricing strategy is for now per matter. We have just straight per matter, where you just buy a matter and that's it, and you just pay per month. There's no long-term commitments for firms that decide they love Goodfact, so we give them a chance to kind of ease into a subscription model. Then for around 10 active matters a month, they would pay us a set fee per month, and they're locked in for 12 months. We decided to make our pricing based on the document volume of a matter, because that's where we add the most value. The more documents you have, the more clarity and time savings you're getting from Goodfact, and the more revenue you can generate using that time on more high value tasks. Okay, our traction to date uh, has been promising. We launched to the market in September of 2023, so about a year ago. It took us about 2 years to build this product. So we launched in September 2023. That's after about 6 months of free beta testing. We had users give us their feedback. We've interviewed hundreds of litigators, and we have been improving the product since. So all of the features we add are based exclusively on hunger, customers' hunger. We go to our customers and we basically ask them, what do you think? What do you want? And we take, the top three things that everyone is telling us, and that's what becomes our roadmap. So we're very grateful that over the last few months, after we integrated some AI layers into Goodfact, which I can discuss more fully, we've started to onboard more and more mid-sized to large law firms across Canada, and we're now involved in 5 pilots with firms across the country, and those should be wrapping up by the end of the year. So here's some of those firms. I guess I also wanted to mention that our product is jurisdiction agnostic. So we already have customers as far as New Zealand, Australia, and Singapore. Litigators across the world need this solution. We're asking for a 1.5 million investment to bring on more engineering talent, more sales talent. It's just been me and my co-founder for 2 years. We did actually just onboard one senior software developer who should be starting in October, but we need to expand that. I'm the sales and the marketing and the training person, and we're just bursting at the seams. This is actually something that someone told us last week. We were at a conference in Calgary, and we hosted an event just for litigators, just for us, for Goodfact. And someone approached us and said, I can finally start practicing law. That's what your tool does for me. He's a junior.
1 more minute, Tali.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. He's a junior litigator at a mid-sized firm in Calgary. He's been practicing for about 2 years. He said the bulk of his time is spent building chronologies, and most of that time gets written off. So he was giddy during the demo. Thank you for your time, and I welcome your comments.
Perfect timing. Thanks, Tali. All right. We'll just let all that settle, and Martin and Brian, when you're ready, maybe we could start with Martin this time to jump in with some feedback.
Yeah, I like the I like the story. I think like the pieces all fit well together. So like the way you've structured the story is great. I do wonder, and I don't know, I'm curious of other people on the call, like I guess I wondered what a chronology was. You talked about that for maybe a minute or two before. I mean, I guessed, but like I don't know. Anyways, for non-lawyers, that might be what is a chronology to start with. I think the point about being jurisdiction agnostic is really important. And being, multinational already, I think that was like in my head as you were going. Is it legal? What regulatory? What, anyways, like I think talking about that way up front about the fact that this will apply globally. It's already in multiple countries. I think that's really important. Your competitive analysis I thought was really good. I felt like the graph didn't quite match what you were saying. So like what you said was, I think, was really good, like a really deep analysis. It was compelling. I think you really feels like you really understand the market, but I don't know, the graph somehow didn't match.
Yeah, the graph is terrible. I don't know how to build a graph to describe, like to show what I have in my head. I was telling this to Lauren. If anyone has any graph ideas, please, because I'm struggling with the graph.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a graph isn't the right answer. right? Maybe the answer is just some categories, just some buckets, and you can talk through the buckets exactly like you talk through them. That may be more effective.
Okay.
Okay, what else do I want to say? So yeah, one thing was you were, I don't know, just a presentation thing. You were like zooming in and zooming out,
Mm.
which was a weird experience. So, I don't know whether it's a slide progression or something, or maybe just talk to it, right, and bring people in the story. But I think like the zooming in and trying to get into the details of those emails was distracting. It's distracting from your storytelling. The I think is similar to our discussion with Jane, right? Like the TAM was kind of vague and a high level TAM. I would want to see like the bottom up view of, and it also speaks to what you talked about in your example up front, 10 large cases per lawyer, right? As a number, is that average? Where's that number come from, right? This is you have some numbers I presume are kind of like that bottom up number, but how does that relate to a firm if you have these 5 customers you're trialing with? How many matters are they doing, right? Like there's something about the kind of like bottom up. How big is this bottom up? And then I was confused about your pricing because you said you're pricing per matter in the non like bulk subscription pace, but then you have a monthly cost. So is it per month or is it per matter?
Per matter per month.
Right.
Per matter per month. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That's still confusing to me because do they like if they do one matter, they pay a price. If they have a second matter that month, they could play a second time.
Price
So it's
month.
really just it's not really per month, it's per matter. It's almost like a on demand or a subscription.
They have like they could have one matter and they just pay us every month to have access to that one matter.
But okay. Okay, yeah. So that's important. That's important. So this is I didn't get that. I
Okay.
didn't get
Okay.
that. And that also speaks to it wasn't clear to me from that and then in your traction slide, like how much of that revenue is recurring? What's your net retention rate? MRR versus AR. Like so I think looking at like MRR growth and net retention rate, that I believe, given what you just said, would show kind of strong forward growth in the traction, which I think would help your story. I think I've said enough, and I'll give other people a chance.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Martin.
Tali.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian.
Sure. Thank you, Tali. That was good. Full disclosure, I've spent 10 years as an expert witness.
Okay.
So you're on to something. I mean, the data dump that I get is just a bunch of random PDFs and email threads, and it is exhausting. The one thing I'll say is that, I don't take this the wrong way. I know lawyers like their billable hours. So if you're reducing their billable hours, how's this going to affect them? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, it's a good question. I mean, it's
right,
something that I need
because
to address. Yeah.
I've seen these cases where they go, yeah, it's going to be 25 hours and it's going to cost you X. Anyway, on to your pitch. So I think you're on to something is what I'm saying. So kudos, good for you, positive. As I said before, again, I would again personally prefer that you start with your solution, because you spent again a lot of time wading through the problem, and then you went to team slide. And then you went to your solution slide on your 4th slide. And I really liked your solution slide. I'd lead with the solution. Here's what we do, because that's going to be top of mind. And I think for people who aren't, and again, just my opinion, but I think, you want the investor to understand what it is you're doing right up front and then see how you solve the problem. So I would lead with solution. Here's what we do, boom. And here's how it solves these problems. That, again, my opinion. I agree with Martin that slide that showed the email threads, the fact you had to expand it up, I think you need to reconfigure that slide, because I was like leaning into the screen trying to see. And, I understand what you're doing, but maybe less sort of graphics and maybe another way to represent that. I don't know, but I would just keep it a bit cleaner. Do you know what I mean? I think that would help understand that. The team slide needs to go more towards the end because you put team slide ahead of solution, right? Again, just my opinion, but I think, you know, you really want to hit home with your solution. So I would drop the team slide down, lead with your solution. Those were the big things. I thought your solution slide, that said, was very clear and very credible. I really like that slide. So I think that's a real hook. Yeah, you know, you're not really telling us, I mean, you're sort of telling a story, but that slide was a big hook. Competition slide, yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many quadrant slides I see, and every startup is up by Pluto somewhere, you know, and so I would ditch the quadrant and I would go, you know, there's books that'll show this, but like go with a checkbox thing. Don't have too many. Somebody probably told you the exact opposite.
Exact opposite.
I love it. Again, I'm but one solo voice in the wilderness. But you know, with the competition slide, I think maybe check boxes are easier, but not too many, and just what your feature set gives you as your sustainable competitive advantage. That's what we want to know. What is your sustainable competitive advantage? You know, I initially, because you said fully manual, I'm going, in my mind, I'm going, well, AI and the LLMs are still early stage. I mean, what's stopping someone with, you know, compute power housed in a football stadium to outflank you long term with a fully AI powered model? Like, I get that it's not good now, and it's, I guess the term is hallucinating with your documents. But, you know, my worry would be what's stopping. I mean, I think you had Thomson Reuters on there. They're relatively well funded. I mean, what's going to stop them from, you know, outflanking you long term? So again, you know, is there IP around what you're doing? Is this first mover advantage? I don't even like the term, but you know, what's going to allow you to keep your competitive edge? So that's important. Yeah, like Martin said, your TAM slide. I don't even know if I would add the business about the docs and everybody else in the world. I would again go bottom up, really focus on your early primary market, which you kind of did in secondary, but maybe eliminate that TAM ring because I mean, docs are a completely different space. And I mean, there's a ton of people trying to disrupt EMR right now. So I don't know. It just felt a bit like too much. Your traction slide, I agree with Martin there. You know, what's your y-axis? Like you showed numbers, 20, 30, 40 grand, but is that ARR, MRR, what was it? Something, most people just on that XY graph just show revenue, but what would be helpful is if you plotted revenue and expenses. And some people say the third line is when you're going to be EBITDA, because then it shows you're really thinking like a business person. Everybody can, you know, grow their revenue, right? And thank God it wasn't a hockey stick, because that's when you really lose credibility in my mind. But if you can maybe plot, you know, your revenue, but what your expenses are looking like, that shows you're thinking a bit businessy, which helps. Pricing strategy, agree with Martin. I was a bit confused by matter. I mean, you can have a matter that has 10 documents and a matter that has 10,000. So I got a bit confused scanning it, but it is simple. Maybe just make it a little more clear. Roadmap and ask. So, you know, you're raising 1.5. The next question is going to be how? I mean, are you doing safe, convertible? What are you doing? Right? Maybe a quick thing on terms. You kind of, I think, conflated everything into one slide, if my memory serves me. You know, and everybody wants to know, and usually it's a separate slide. Usually it's a pie chart. How are you going to use your funds? Like, is it sales? Is it marketing? I mean, it sounds like you're doing founder-led sales right now, which is great, but you know, maybe a little more granularity on that. And I really liked your closing slide. I thought that was good. And I think you're onto a compelling solution, Tali. It's just about, you know, maybe a little bit more sort of rearranging of slides and clarity. But overall, well done. And you're onto something.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I just want to jump in. I'm sorry, but I just want to jump in and say, I agree with everything Brian said. Really, really great points, except, and again, a voice, but from my perspective, I invest first in the problem, second in the team, third in the solution. Right. So yeah.
Okay.
Fair. Totally fair.
Yeah, I just want to give Jennifer a couple of minutes here before we leave. If you, that's a few things to add, Jennifer.
I agree with Martin, and not Ryan on the, on where you put the problem. You might do a one-liner on the solution before you go into the problem. Hi, I'm Tali Green from, and we do blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Let me tell you why this is an issue, and then go more into detail on the solution.
Yeah.
But I get, in pitches where it's all the solution first, I spend all my time thinking why. So I think, covering, problem then solution. I would shorten your section on how you do your product planning.
What do you mean? Which one?
So you talked about, you add features on the roadmap based on your customers, you take the top 3, you do this
Right.
process. It's great that you do that. But I don't think it's necessary to go into that level of information around that in the pitch. And it did feel like you were kind of tight in terms of time. And it's great for an early stage customer to be, or a product to be customer driven. You also need to be thinking of the customers that aren't buying your solution. And because you can wind up narrowing your market if you're only listening to the people who liked your first version. So I would just do a little less on that, that we, our customer retention is high. Part of the reason is we really listen to them. Our roadmap is, heavily driven by, our customer requirements. Something short that doesn't take quite as much time out of the rest of your pitch for that. And I agree in terms of the legal, most of your investors will not be lawyers. I was also a little bit confused as to what a matter was in your pricing strategy. So just explaining terms, that a matter is an ongoing thing. It's not a one-time thing. So you're not, it's not transaction pricing, it's still monthly pricing. It's just the unit that you're doing is not the number of users, it's the number of matters. Whatever that is. So, which is apparently a lot of documents. Yeah, so just working on that a little bit so that as a non-lawyer, I'm not trying to, what exactly is she pricing?
Okay.
I assume that when you're talking to lawyers, they all get it. So when you're talking to your customers, they understand your pricing, but when you're talking to non-lawyers, we also have to understand your pricing. So,
Okay.
But overall, a good pitch.
Thank you.
All right. Lauren, 30 seconds.
Yep, I loved 2 things. I loved your intro and feeling your personal pain. That came through better in this pitch than I'd seen before. So well done. I thought you started off really compelling, and I love the tip of the spear, like you're starting with litigation lawyers and your focus there really kind of underscores your credibility. Last thing, I'll help you with the ARR, MRR revenue piece. Can totally help you with that slide and lots of others. Okay, cool.
Thank you. Thank you,
Awesome.
everyone.
Great job, both of you.
Yeah, likewise.